rocking.
Is this where the damn drumming and the music kicks in?
Yeah. What's going on, everybody? Hello, and welcome to On the Pipe Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tyler Shepardson, and today is Thursday, December the 22nd, 2022, years after zero. We got an awesome show coming at you today. Kailub Russell is going to be joining us here in just a couple of moments, but before we get into that, want to let you guys know, as always, Beta Motorcycles is the official manufacturer of On the Pipe Podcast. They've been family-owned and operated since 1905. They manufacture the finest enduro, trials, and dual sport motorcycles that are known for their premium quality and rideability. Beta Motorcycles are the best-looking bikes on the market and back it up with their superior performance. Head over to betausa.com for more information on their available models or to find a dealer near you to get yours today. So excited to talk about them and be with them going forward in the future as well. But also want to let you know that this episode is brought to you in part by Zach Tussle at Raymond James Financial. Zach is a racer and a financial advisor that helps his clients win when it comes to retirement and financial planning. If you or someone you know wants to save and invest for their future or is already retired and needs advice for income during retirement, Zach Tussle is always my first recommendation. Find out more by Googling Zach Tussle or go to financialadvisorsdenvernc.com, and Zach Tussle will be able to take care of you. But speaking of a fella that is retired, a guy that we're going to talk to here tonight, he's a two-time XC2 champion. He's a national enduro champion. He's a three-time full gas sprint enduro champion, a two-time ISDE world champion, an eight-time GNCC overall champion, the overall winningest rider in GNCC history, and a three-time father. We throw that one in there. We welcome to the show, Kailub Russell. Kailub, how's it going, man?
We're going. We're still got air in the lungs. We're still breathing. We're doing better than circulating, that's for sure. We've been busy, but it's new challenges, new year coming up. So we've got new plans made and just trying to make it around the earth one more time.
There you go. Actually got a birthday coming up in a couple months, right?
Yeah, 1 year older.
But
that happens fast.
Yeah, trust me. I just joined the vet classes myself, so.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be too the guys in the 30 plus would like it if I joined in just yet, so I'm holding off. But now I lost my Sportsman A riding partner. He's moving up to XC2. He raced me a couple times last year in the morning race with the girls, and now I think he has something. So.
Yeah, man. What's up with that? You get Zacho back out there, get a little bit more GNCC under his belt, and next thing you know, he's a full-time guy.
Yeah. No, Zach's an awesome guy. He just loves racing is what it really boils down to. And he's wanted to do, it's kind of like me in the motocross thing. It's like just something I always wanted to do and like had my eyes set on it. Didn't ever know if it was actually going to come into fruition, and same sort of aspect. He just loves the sport and loves racing and likes competing on a motorcycle. So, yeah, I think he's going to do pretty well. We'll see. I think he's got I think he's pretty realistic. Obviously, he wants to do well, I feel like, but yeah, we'll see. I think the first 5 races are going to be if he doesn't get a win or on the podium the first 5 races, I think the rest of the year is going to be very tough for him though.
That's what seems to be the sentiment. Like the more people I talk to, because once everything goes north, the tracks definitely change a little bit. So you do got a little piece of fuzz right there. I wanted to let you know, right on the chin. There you go. Got it.
It's probably just a gray hair.
But yeah, I mean, obviously talking back and forth with him and kind of hear things before other people. But that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about is kind of what you see his expectations are. I mean, do you think come out big buck round one that he's going for the win, or do you think it's really like a settle in process and see where it stands after the first 3 hours?
I don't know. I really don't. I think he's capable. Um, but those guys are going fast. I did that Mid East a few weeks ago. Well, it's been over a month. End of
Has it
October,
really?
beginning of November. Yeah, it's almost been a month and a half. So, but I rode with, Rui was there, and he was going really fast, like the first 3 laps, first 2, 3 laps, and just kind of like straight away. So, it obviously like I haven't been racing, so that high end like dead on nuts like precision like straight away isn't really there for me. But yeah, it was way faster than what I anticipated. So if that guy that hasn't ever has really won a race, I don't believe he has.
No, he's been on
So
the podium quite a bit, but hasn't won.
yeah, yeah. So if a guy that's like a podium guy and hasn't ever won is going that fast, then I know how fast Johnny's going, and he was winning XC2. So um, yeah, I think he's going to have it's going to be tough for sure. I know there's a whole list of guys in XC2 right now that are really fast. They're going good, and they're hungry. But yeah, I think he's going to do good. It just depends on what he values as being good or not. But I think he's more than capable the first 5 rounds to get in there and mix it up and kind of be a spoiler for a win for sure. I think Camp Coker is a good one for him. I think Florida is going to be a good one for him as long as he can, you know, not toss it away there at the beginning. But he's a veteran. He's 30. He's my age, 33 years old. He's he's gonna make calculated, kind of mitigate his risk that he takes in the race. He's not going to be like one of the young kids that goes out there and just wads himself up and gets nowhere. But I'm excited. I'm ready to see what happens. I think next year is going to be um, it's going to be a good one to watch. It's going to be a good one for the fans. XC2, XC1. Hopefully everybody, it's not an anomaly like this year where everybody gets hurt in the first round or the first month of the first racing season. So yeah, I think we're all in for a treat.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that statement more. Before we move completely off of the Zacho thing, I did want to ask, just from like your standpoint or your opinion, or maybe it's fact or whatever. So I think one of the biggest surprises is obviously switching brands and coming into off-road racing full time. I mean, that's a huge surprise for everybody. But what do you think went into the decision as far as XC2 versus XC1? Because just like you mentioned, XC2, you got a full row of hungry guys all battling, going after it. And then XC1, obviously fast guys, but it seems like more of a knowingness to kind of link together, run a train on the first couple laps, and ride together versus trying to win it on the first lap. What do you think went into that XC2 decision versus XC1?
I think it's a I think it's a smart decision for him, just for the simple fact that he doesn't have the experience. Like the XC1 guys are all fairly seasoned. There's only 6 guys this year and all 6 guys that were racing in XC1 have been there for years and years. So experience plays a huge factor in off-road racing. Or in GNCC, just having that experience and knowing every little bit of the track. You've been at these places for years, and or XC2, like, yeah, obviously there's a little bit more. They're more erratic, so then that also breeds in more inconsistency. So, Zach can ride like an XC1 guy in XC2 and still put himself in position to win races and be on the podium. You don't have to, if you're not really feeling it, you don't have to hang it out really, because somebody's probably going to make a mistake. Um, just in my opinion, I feel like it's good for him to take that step and and just learn the tracks, learn the bike, get comfortable like hitting the roots and the rocks. And um, there's so many different variables that he's going to have to become accustomed to, and he will. But I feel like that XC2 is the XC2 class is a good platform to sort of hone your skills, and that's kind of what it's designed to do, obviously. But you do have guys, lingering around in there, which we can touch on that too. But that's always a crazy topic, is how do we get guys out of XC2? And um, but it's not. I don't really feel like it's the rider's fault. It's more the teams and the manufacturers. But there's value. There's value there. So it would be silly for people not to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and that is one of those definitely one of those conversations where you can argue both sides, and I'm excited to see Zacho in the mix as well. Just like I'm excited to see like Linden defending the number 1 plate, and like you said, just a stacked XC2 class, a stacked XC1 class, and actually going to have Zach coming up on the show in a couple weeks, so we'll talk more in depth with him about that there. But let's get right into it. You mentioned it. There is full blown team efforts on Pro Row that only have XC2 guys. There's teams that don't have guys in the XC1, the premier class. Why do you think that is? You kind of touched on it a moment ago, but why do you think that we see a few people on XC1 and then a full row can barely fit on XC2?
It's ever since the classes, came into fruition. It's sort of been that direction. I think people get in there and then they kind of do stall out, and they're good enough to win the class or on the cusp of winning the class, and they kind of don't get the job done. And not to pick on like Mike Wachowski, but he's like a guy that's but Mike's still fairly young. Is he 24 yet? He's like right in there, like that
Yeah.
early 20s, and he's been in the class. This will be his, I think his first year in XC2 was in 2015, possibly. So this will be his 8th year in XC2. Like I only did 10 full seasons of XC1, so this will be his 8th season of XC2. But he's right there on the cusp, but
It's weird
like
when you say it
can't get
that
it
way.
done. So he can't get the job done, and he doesn't feel like he's gonna be able to solidify himself as an XC1 rider until he like you know hits that sort of trajectory in a sense, I guess. And he's still getting paid probably pretty good money to stay in XC2, and he's getting no offers to go to XC1. And then on the back end, you have all these manufacturers kind of stepping in, and Honda's back. Well, they've been back for a couple of years. David Eller has Phoenix Honda, and Yamaha support has stepped up. Obviously, Husky and Gas Gas are fairly new too, but it's the sister company of it's the KTM group. They have no factory riders for XC2. They only have the satellite programs for XC2, sort of feeding them up. But KTM's House of Brands program is starting to lose guys that are capable of winning XC2 because these other manufacturers are investing in the youth and holding them there. So, we have KTM, Husky, and Gas Gas. We have the board covered in XC1. All the other manufacturers are kind of stole away the talent for XC2, and they're hoarding them. And it's almost like it's a manufacturer strategy is to they're playing the long game here with the riders, is try to build them up and then take away some of that market share from the KTM group manufacturer. John Hines and I actually had this conversation, the same conversation at the banquet. Is we've got to step up and start offering more to some of these XC2 guys, because we're 5-6 years down the road from now, our talent pool in XC1 might look a whole lot different. They might be on Hondas and Cowies and Yamahas instead of KTM, Husky, and Gas Gas. They're not going to pay to compete at XC1 against the KTM group right now, because for one, they don't have the money, the effort, or the funding. So they're trying to establish themselves as players with these younger kids, all the way back through. Like, look at what Cowie's doing with their amateur program, and they're slowly grooming them up. and they're going to slowly start to chip away at it. So that's the cool position that I'm in with Ranch Russell is I'm able to work with some of these amateur kids and trying to key up our program to grab a hold of some new youth coming up and kind of retain our market share and our our spot going forward as a manufacturer and as a brand, the KTM House of Brands. Help them.
So, and going off of that real quick, you mentioned like really it seems like a lot of the youth overall champions, you see them on like Nick DeFeo this year on a Cowie, and then you saw like JoJo and Grant Davis go from mini bikes up to Cowie that way. So when you see a guy like Grant Davis this year who had the success as a kid on the Cowie, and now all of a sudden next year we're going to see him on Trail Jesters KTM. The way that you were just talking about that there, how big of a win is that for the KTM group to have a guy like Grant Davis come back over to the orange bikes?
It was definitely tough. I was part of that process of helping acquire him, and they really wanted to work with myself, which is awesome. Very humbled for that, and to know that I was helped influence their decision to come back to KTM and work with the brand is, um, you know, obviously very validating that I've done something right throughout my career. Is I've got people still wanting to come work with me. Um, but it's a huge win, because like I said, like Cowie, these other manufacturers, they have that strategy of where they're coming in and they're getting these kids at a young age and they're trying to take over what KTM has built. Um, Obviously, it's not going to happen overnight, but 5, 6 years down the road, like they've already implemented those steps to make that happen. So, we're going to have to start counteracting and get more creative with how we go about acquiring some of these guys back, or um, keeping the KTM House of Brands and the KTM group, kind of at the helm and the top of the sport. So it can change in an instant if you stop trying. It's what happens. It just you blink your eye and you think you don't need to do something because it's not necessary in the moment, and 2 years later you regret everything, like every decision of not doing that. So it's exciting. I'm excited to be a part of it and help with that role and kind of establishing the youth moving forward. I think that's a really good spot for me. Um, there's so much we could talk about tonight because
Yeah.
my dynamic with Ranch Russell, and I've got all the factory guys that are that train with us, but I can't really sit here and call myself a trainer. That's not what I did. I was a racer, and my value to them is more as like a riding coach. And they don't really need a whole lot of coaching. We got to tweak some things here and there, but I have Jacob Fetty that I've brought him on and hired him. He's our basically Ranch Russell's head trainer, and he kind of looks after all the pro guys. And we've smoothed into that this year and kind of got things locked down. I have a lot of trust in Jacob that he does a good job, and he's proven that he's done a good job. So now it's time to initiate the second phase, and that's start a bit of an amateur program to just kind of feed guys in and give them an inside look of what it takes to be a professional athlete, the right way to do it, or what we think is the right way to do it, not the Stu Baylor way to do it, but throw a little bit of shade there, but yeah, just to have the overall package show discipline and structure and what the grit that it really takes. And instead of having a guy and just throwing him all this support and all these bikes and all this money and saying, here you go, now go race, go do it, without actually showing him what the job entails is asinine. So now we're giving all these guys all this support and these bikes, and now we have a platform to show them exactly what it takes and how to get it done and bridge the gap to that next level. So there's that's just one example and how we're trying to stay one step ahead of all these other manufacturers. Is just not only can we meet the support for the rider, but now we can actually show the rider exactly the path forward.
Yeah. And so one of the things you mentioned there, and kind of something that we were talking about before we went on, is like, and kind of joking about, is like, what's your actual title? And you kind of got into it a little bit there, and obviously, I think everyone's well aware of your career. You spent it all on KTM, 16 number one plates on that KTM, and now you're still a part of that KTM group, with the whole group, like you mentioned, with Husky, with Gas, and now that you have Ranch Russell, actually kind of two locations of Ranch Russell, what exactly is it that you're doing still with the team? Like, I know that you're training the pro riders and things like that, but just for those that are watching and tuning in, what is your whole role these days with the KTM group?
Um, yeah, I have I wear many different hats, and a lot of the work like around here around the ranch definitely is kind of more undercover that people don't see. Like I've just finished building a new facility, and it's not all the way done yet, but I've done a lot of hands-on work, like manual labor, um, just for cost efficiency. But no, it's a little bit of everything. I'm still a brand ambassador um, for KTM, and I do some production testing for them, and I got to do a lot of cool ambassador type roles this year, as far as the new launch with the 350 factory edition, and then the Erzberg launch. So I'm busy on the bike with some the manufacturer side of things, is being an ambassador for their new products coming out. But the main role is definitely the training facility. But like I said, I've got such a good trainer that um, really does a nice job as far as the product that we're giving the riders, and the detail, that it doesn't consume a whole lot of my time, as far as mitigating that aspect of actually having to be hands on with it. I can be away with it and check in, and we still do a whole lot of stuff with them. Don't get me wrong, like I still help build the riding structure around what they're doing. Um, but the bulk of the work is, Jacob is in Jacob's detail when we're not together. But obviously, this year, we hope to implement a little bit different training structure for our guys, and we have more to offer now that my North Carolina facility is up and running. So I've got a 5,500 square foot um, facility there, um, on some land. So I have a motocross track and some woods that we can ride right there at the facility. And then I've got all the woods and the terrain that I've ridden over the years while I was racing, still right around here as family land for us to utilize and ride. And it's really crazy. We have a little bit of everything. We have red clay, we have some stuff like the Beckley race, like shelly type rock, and it has a little bit of everything here. It's really wild. Like within the 5 miles of um, this 5 mile diameter right in here, where I live at. I have like 7, 8 different tracks that we alternate through each week, and also, it's nice because it's pretty good in the summer here. It's still hot and humid, so we get that good weather to train in. That's not so fun, but it's really good. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of work around, but it's a really good location. And like I said, I got the building, and we got a 3 bedroom apartment up there. It's full kitchen, and all the guys are be able to, there's 5 RV hookups. They want to come down with their RV with the family and do that instead of staying in the building. Then there's that option. But I just know, as a racer, the expenses that I incurred, like trying to train this way and elevate myself, that for most of the guys, like it's unattainable. So I'm trying to figure out a way to 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 make living in separate locations, 2 to 3 different spots, like actually feasible and attainable, to suit their needs. So we've got Florida, and now North Carolina, and then wherever they live at is, they can go back to home, and they still have a training schedule and a routine built around their life. But we definitely we love when they're all together and riding because that's what really breeds the structure and um, really makes them step it up to the next level and pushes each other every day is when they're you know kind of butting heads on the track and fighting to be the best every day. So that's what really takes you to that next level. And I think they're all it's a new concept for them, but they really there's some of them are seeing the benefits and what it's doing for them. So it's it's really fun position to be in, and I enjoy the job, and I'm passionate about it. So it makes it easy for me to do it.
Yeah, and it's cool. It's got to be cool for you to still stay around the sport. And I know in right now in this phase of life, the guys that you're training are the guys that were your competitors, especially like Thad Duvall. You guys have been racing together for 80 years now, it seems like. So, and when Thad first started coming over and training with you, that was a big deal to him. He actually came on the show and was kind of talking about it, like swallowing his pride and coming to train with you, and then seeing the benefits of that. And I think we've kind of seen that bump with all the guys that have been training when they're healthy. As you mentioned, last year was a kind of a freak season, but Jacob Fetty, part of the program, full time now. You're in North Carolina. Other Ranch Russell is down near the Florida GNCC. Has he pitched the idea about riding bicycles? They've done that before. You guys got that planned coming up again?
No, that's a little much for sure. If it would be definitely after the season or something, or like, yeah, that's a long ways.
Yeah.
I'm not the bicycling guy. I'm not, I did it because it was one of those things I would do it because I knew it was gonna be good for me, not because I like to do it.
Yeah.
Um, I like the mountain bike a little bit, but definitely it's tough. It's fun when we have a group. We have some games we play, and uh, I can't even remember what we got this name game that we play. I remember the first time we played it, we were doing like a 3.5 hour ride. It was like I blinked and it was over. I was like, we had so much fun um, going back and forth. But it's fun when you have a group of guys together, and the cycling. It's and our cycles aren't really that extravagant or that hard. It's obviously we try um, to key everything up to maximize your potential on the bike every time you get on it, the dirt bike.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing, and just being able to hit that top tier criteria to be able to ride that thing as fast as you can every day. Um, that's it's a tough job for sure. Um, there's a bunch of different aspects of it. The guys all have different personalities and different concepts, and yeah, it's definitely interesting at times, but it keeps you on your toes, keeps me on my toes, and um, it makes me have to relearn how to do things a certain way, or how to I might be really efficient at being able to do something, but not very proficient at being able to actually explain it. So
Yeah.
I got to kind of go back to school on some stuff, and like, all right, now I know the concept of what I'm doing, but how do I actually portray what I know how to do, like verbally? So yeah, it's definitely challenging sometimes, and but yeah, like I said, um, I'm passionate about it. I'm in a good spot with what we have going on, and I feel like for the most part we all enjoy what I was able to create, and um, yeah, I would have never dreamed that this would be the direction that I would have taken stuff. All the place I have in Florida, I built it sort of selfishly. Um, I never even intended to have any land down there. I was going to actually buy a small house is what I was thinking about, was buying a house in Gainesville to stay in. My dad was like, "Oh, hey, my buddy Skeet, he's got some land for sale. You want to maybe buy it together?" And I was like, we went and looked at it, and then we bought it, and then we built it for us and for me to use. And so I slowly, had all this equipment, and I slowly just realized like I actually have maybe a viable business option here. Like, so I was went down the road, made a lot of choices that led me into the direction and the path that I'm on now. So
No, it's cool to see, and especially cool to see both locations grow and the team, the Ranch Russell team, grow. But so right now, where you guys are at is, I know that you're working with a lot of the factory guys. Is it, I guess, a two-part question? One, is it just factory guys that you're focusing on right now, or pro level guys? I know you said that you'll be working with Grant Davis. Is this something that is open to anyone that's wanting to learn more or to get better and progress in the sport, or right now are you kind of limited to just those pro guys? And then the second part of that question is, who are the guys that you are currently working with?
yeah, so that's a good question, and I get this asked a lot. So um, yeah, it's KTM has exclusivity of Ranch Russell and with their factory teams, and we started out with a few amateur guys last year. We had Cole Forbes. We started with Cole Forbes and Chase Landers um, this past year in 2022, and we have the Husqvarna team, which last year was Thad, Trevor, and Craig, and then Ben and um, Johnny Durar. Uh, but now this year we have two KTM guys, Ben and Johnny, two Husky guys, Craig and Trevor, and then two Gas guys with Thad and Ryder Lafferty. So we've got six XC1 or XC2 factory level riders, and then we have like a Pro 2 program with Brody Johnson and Grant Davis. We have those two guys, and then like I said, we're trying to figure out that way to slow these other brands down as far as you know getting to that next step before we can get a handle on what we're trying to actually accomplish. So we have an amateur program with seven riders, and it's just to kind of give these guys a good product and some structure in their training and a place to ride in the winter. Um, and really, I haven't really got to work with a lot of these guys besides Cole Whitmer, Forbes, Landers, and the two Whitmers, and then I got so many Coles right now. They kind of they're gonna start getting my mind mixed up. But we've got some new amateur riders that we're looking forward to, like getting their feet wet and working with them and seeing where they're at and what they're actually capable of, and trying to help grow them into that next phase and that next step. And like I said, the whole idea of our program is, or my thought, the program is, when you look at A riders in motocross, they're not very far off of 250 pro motocross riders. They're very in the same realm, and ready to make that transition.
Mm-hmm.
Despite just being maybe not mentally there yet, but physically, like the speed and the stamina are very close in that same realm. But in off road, you look at an A guy and you look at the guy that's winning XC2, like for the majority of the time, like they're on polar opposite spectrums here. So how do we narrow this gap and then also again narrow that gap from XC2 to XC1? So you got a guy in the A class that's almost like a mini bike rider to the XC1 guy as far as like the capability of being able to do it. So that's what the idea of the amateur program is, to get these guys riding together and see how it's done, see how they're doing it, let them key off of guys like Ben Kelly and a veteran like Thad Duvall and the new up and coming guys. It's really invaluable to them to be able to see what they do and be able to try to implement that, because it's one thing to watch it, but when you watch it in person or you get to follow them, it's a completely different realm that maybe they're not expecting. So it kind of it's we integrate in their training to the riding, and we show them that over time, like it's like kind of like compound interest, and the more you put in, the more you get out. So I'm really excited to start working with the guys down in Florida and really see, because I've seen a lot of kids like really step it up in these last couple of years, and I'm excited to see what our program can with the factory guys involved, and then riding with them, and training with them a little bit is going to help them take their riding to the next level. And like I said, we're just trying to figure out a way to narrow this gap and not let this keep being the deciding factor whether a guy goes to XC2 and never goes to XC1, because I really feel like that's what it is. Like they come from the A class and they see XC2 and they're not that far off of it, but when they get to XC2, they're not even there at the top of XC2 yet, and then they're way off of XC1. So we're just trying to pinpoint ways to knock these deficits down and grow a little bit closer.
No, that's an awesome way to go at it so analytically about trying to fill that gap. And you mentioned a lot of young, really good talent. Swole Cole, obviously, coming off a championship. Chase Landers coming off a championship. But one of the ones that I kind of want to pick your brain about, and I didn't even think anything of it till you said it, but Brody Johnson, or Brody Johansson, as I like to call him. He's a guy, I mean, top am, and then injures his leg doesn't heal right, kind of misses a season, comes back last year, battles back, wins an XC3 title, and now moving back up into that XC1 or XC2 class where he was supposed to be last year. Brody's young. Brody is really younger than people realize, and he's a guy that even from the A classes was getting pretty high up there in the overall. And I don't think he's ever had like a legit training program like what he's about to go through with you guys down at Ranch Russell. What's your kind of views there? And then like the other guys, like who are you expecting big results from? Obviously everybody, but just the outliers, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see the best for everybody. I want everybody to, show up to be the best every day, and that's not to be better than each other, but to be the best version of themselves that they can be. So once they have that concept, is like, hey, just show up and do this, and once you start seeing the results, for me, like racing, and when I was training, when I went to just give you an example, like I went to Alden's, and I'm riding with Ryan Dungey and Jason Anderson and Marvin my first year down there. And I get down there and I'm getting lapped like 2 times in a 30-minute moto.
That's
and,
so gnarly.
like it's crazy. Like, especially like there's a whole lot of, the speed gap was astronomical at the time when I first went down there. Like I thought I was somewhat in a realm. I knew I wasn't going to compete with him, but I thought I was going to be twice as close as I was. So I was basically, instead of only getting lapped, like possibly getting lapped once, I was getting lapped twice, like most days. So, I cut that down in half. I think I was there for 2 months. I was there for like 9 weeks. So I went from getting lapped twice to holding the Dunge off on like the last lap, like his last lap, me going to get the white flag. Like he's like right behind me. I was like battling to hold him off, like so I didn't get lapped. My last day there. So that's how big of a like impact that it had on me. Is like I went from this my capabilities being here where it was, and I was able to find 2.5 minutes, and those 8 weeks. So, I just, like I said, all these new kids coming in the amateur rank, like it's gonna catch them off guard. A little bit in some way it will. Either how, because like I said, some of the stuff we do is not really all that what it's cracked up to be or what you may think it is. It's actually fairly simple and fairly rudimentary, but it's showing up every day, continuously doing it, and treating it like a job, like it's like your life depends on it. It's dotting your I's and crossing your T's. It's just it's it's a lifestyle. You got to treat it as that, and that's why look at it's like a guy like Ben Kelly. Like he doesn't ever come down and like light the world on fire, but he shows up every day. He doesn't do anything wrong. Does exactly what Jacob or I tell him, or he tries to do exactly that. And it just, like I said, it's compound interest. And then next thing you know, this guy's just on another planet. Like when it comes race time, like it's everything just builds up into these moments. So, but as far as the amateur kids, I really excited to start working with them. They've got a lot to learn, and we're excited to be able to give them this opportunity and help hopefully take them to that next level. I feel like Lane and Cole, Lane really stepped it up this year. I feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's that at Ironman he was way down on the beginning of the race there, and it was dry and dusty, and he doesn't strike me as a dry and dusty type of rider, but he made it happen. Like, he came back and battled back, and for him and his brother both win championships this year. That was really cool. But yeah, we gotta, I see a whole lot of bad habits that they have, like riding the motorcycle, that we can implement, and things that we can change and going forward. And that's a problem about off-road. It just breeds bad bike handling skills and bad habits, like always dragging the brake and covering the brake. I'm bad about it. I know most any XC1 guy is bad about it. But it's little things like that. The more you're aware of small things, the more intuition you can have to actually uh, implement them to make a change and get just a little bit better every time you ride. So, if you can go out there and practice and spin laps, but if you're just burning gas, so the only thing you're ever going to do is just burn gas for no reason, and you're not going to get anything out of it other than the satisfaction of, yeah, I went and rode today. So
Yeah.
what did you get out of riding today is what we're, trying to instill in these guys. So
Training with a purpose, and
yeah,
purpose is to get better every day. But it's a solid group of guys to all compete with every single day. I mean, there's no replacement for having but all those guys around you that are all at that speed to kind of push each other and do better. But you kind of caught the beginning of this era that we're in, and also caught the tail end of the era that superseded you. So right now, you have 8 championships. You've won more GNCCs than anybody ever, and you can kind of use your knowledge that you've built up over those 10 years, more than that, racing the pro class, or 10 years in XC1 rather. And you can kind of walk those guys through it and kind of help them learn from maybe mistakes that you've made, or maybe the stuff that brought you so much success. But during your entire run, what did you do? Like, did you kind of develop a program on your own? Did you like to train alone? Did you have a trainer? Did you have somebody you like to bounce ideas off of and work with? Or were you kind of just figuring it out as you go, and now using that information you learned to trickle down to more people?
literally from A to Z, like everything you just said, I had done it. So, I pushed people away. Didn't want to work with anybody. Just want to ride by myself. And, I've had all those same feelings. And what it all boils down to is how good do you really want to be? Like, how much do you really want to push yourself? When I was, I would, when I first moved up into XC1, it's like I said, here's your bike, here's your money, show up at these races, go have at it, like, no explanation of actually how to do the job, other than they're sure to tell you when you're not doing a good job. So, um, yeah, so it was one of those things, like, I knew I needed to do something, but I didn't know how to do it or how to go about it. So you just start, like anything, you just start. It's trial and error process, and you figure out. If you just don't do anything, you're never going to learn a damn thing. You're just going to always stay in that realm. So you start, and I did a lot of things wrong. Didn't do everything right to begin with. I still don't do everything right. I'm still learning. It's still a trial and error process with this new program, and how I deal with people, and how I read people, and how I teach them. So there's just a starting point, and you just have to start and go forward, make the mistakes, fail, learn, figure out what works, and try to implement what works. Try to keep re-implementing what works, and gaining off of that. But I went from 2011. Um, I tell you what, the biggest turning point for me was when I actually started my relearning myself to be more fit, to be more knowledgeable, to be more disciplined, was in 2011. It was my first year in XC1. The first race in Florida. wasn't that good. I had an injector go out on me. Basically DNF'd. I think I don't know if I finished or not. Next race, Georgia. 7 days later, I get food poisoning the night before the race. I'm throwing up all afternoon. Basically DNF that one too. So here we go. First three XC1 races I ever competed in, DNF'd all three of them. 2010 was my first XC1 race at a XC2 at Ironman. It was the last time it was as dusty as it was this year. I fell over in a creek and hydrolocked my bike in the driest race of the year.
In the dust race.
In the dust race, I fell over in a creek, hydrolocked my bike. Second race, injector went out. Third race, food poisoning. So I basically DNF'd my first three XC1 races ever. And then I got a fourth at Steel Creek. And then at Big Buck, I was like, I got that fourth. I think it was the race that Charlie Mullins fell over in the last turn and Josh Strang passed him. And then Corey got third. I got fourth. So KTM went 2, 3, 4. And I was pretty bummed because I was like the odd man out. I worked really hard. I had a bad start, got up there. Yeah. I was kind of pitted against Corey at the time, Buttrick, that is. Mm-hmm. Him and I were both kind of like on the bubble as to who are we going to keep getting hired or who's going to be the odd man out here and not get re-signed.
Even coming off of 2 XC2 titles?
Yeah, you got to always have that pressure of, unknown. If you feel like you're comfortable, then that's the exact time you don't want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Like, if you get too complacent, that's when it's over. You lose it. Like it's just gone and you don't even know what happened. It's like, you always got to put that pressure on yourself. And or at least for me, I always felt like I need to put that hardcore pressure on myself. Like, if you don't make this happen, it's almost like the end of your life. Like, and you ride like you've got everything to lose on the line. But we get into Big Buck, and me and Charlie, we go 1-2 off the start, and we gap everybody by like a minute and a half, and Strang's in third. And I basically ride with Charlie up until about 2 laps to go, and then he starts to get away from me, and then I just start falling apart, getting hot, hyperventilate, can't breathe, and I had a minute and a half on Josh. I think he runs me down, passes me with a lap to go, and I get third. And it was at that moment, like I was standing there on the podium. I was like, man, I could have won this race. Like, I was the fastest guy today. Like, I was the fastest guy on the track, but I got third. And I got ran down by a guy that was a minute and a half behind me. It's like, the one thing that I can do better is be in shape. So it was like, right then and there, like that moment, that one race, like it transformed like every way like that I perceive things. And I just started doing things to better give myself more chances to be more fit. And, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just started winging it. Like, I just go take off. I'll go do a 5K with my freaking EVSs, or my DVSs. Like, I was doing stupid shit. Like, I would go, like, I started this Wednesday night mountain bike race thing. So I'd go like mountain bike racing Wednesday night before I would race on Sunday. Like, it was like, thinking back, like, it was super dumb, but it was making me mentally tough is what it was doing. And it was, doing something is better than doing nothing. I know this whole topic got pretty long for one explanation on, how I got to where I am now. But like I said, then once I moved to Alden's and started doing that thing, that's when I really learned like that, all right, there's a whole lot of shit that I'm still doing wrong. And I've won a lot of races, a lot of championships at this point.
Yeah.
And, that I kind of had to reevaluate how I did things and how I looked at things and kind of start from scratch again. I was doing a lot of stuff right as far as training by this point, but like all the eating, the diet, and food and some other things, like it was way off according to him, which he's a little out there on some things for sure. Like he's very strict, but Alden and I got along very well. I feel like I kind of got grandfathered in. Charlie went down there, I think in 2015, maybe, I think it was in 2015. Then I went down in 2016 after Charlie had quit racing. And and then KTM ended up doing, the training thing with Alden
Yeah.
and the motocross side, and it was actually integrated with the off-road side in too. But they ended up integrating the off-road team in because of what I had to say about the program, and I like the program, but it really we they did all that without actually logistically figuring out if it was going to work for everybody or not, because West Coast to East Coast, where Alden's is at, the terrain and all this, like it really doesn't make sense for the West Coast riders. So I really got a lot out of Alden's. I think everybody went there maybe once or twice for a couple of weeks, but I was there for like 4 years in the summer, for like 2 months for my last 16 to 20.
So
But
did those few years down training at Alden's, is that kind of what made you start thinking about the blueprint for Ranch Russell and like kind of seeing how he was doing it for the moto guys and even the off-road guys? Did that weigh into anything that you're doing now, or kind of give you that, not idea, but kind of seeing where you could follow into that?
yeah, no, it did for sure. I already in the winters, Alden and those guys, they'd be prepping for Supercross and be in California. So I had my place in Florida, like I said, that I built. So I was already having Toth and Ben and some other guys that I would invite down to ride with, and Lane, just to be able to push me every day. And but I was pretty sure to keep good guys around that I wanted to be around with at the time. And um, but yeah, then I didn't really think of the whole, like the business aspect of actually doing this, by any means, until after I was kind of told Auntie and John Hines and the guys at KTM that I was ready to be done with racing, the year after, and they're like, oh, well, what are you gonna do, and this and that, like what is your plan? And my plan was like, I'm gonna start the first off-road specific training facility, and that was going to be for the public, like for the masses.
Yeah.
I wasn't to them specifically, and John Hines looked at me and was like, I think we need to be a part of it. We want to be a part of it, and I was like, I don't know how, but sure, well, we will figure. We can try to figure it out, and so we have what we have now.
That's cool how the whole thing just kind of developed like that, and I'm sure that's also got to be like rewarding for you. Also, like I said, staying around the sport and then seeing the success of the guys that you're riding with. But I mean, seeing the amateur guys and the pro guys, does it? This is gonna be a weird question, and not to put you in a difficult spot or anything, but to see a pro guy elevate their level where they're already at and start clicking off the wins and get back to where they know that they could be or where you think they could be, versus the amateur riders closing that gap that you were talking about from amateur to professional. Which one of that, like, do you take more pride in? Like seeing the pros better themselves or seeing the amateurs get closer to that pro level?
I think both pretty equally. I think really helping the amateurs kind of close that gap would be more exciting, and I feel like they're getting better and faster, but we just gotta teach them on a scale that's a little bit, um, easier to handle, and two, like the hard part is, as well as the support level of their family and the team, like what they're getting out of it, like if they're in school, and like there's a lot of different factors. So it's for them to make huge strides is really an accomplishment. So and like I said, we're just kind of getting into that aspect, of the amateur realm here, for myself, and working with those guys. So it's going to be exciting to see. I've already seen Chase and Cole and Lane make steady improvements, and Cole Forbes. Um, but what I have offered, or kind of previously compared to now, I feel like, um, was a little bit, maybe subpar. So, because they just kind of tailed off of what the pro guys are doing. So now we're going to be able to get a little bit more specific, with me and the amateur guys, because like I said, I have Jacob who's gonna, I have he's gonna take over all the pro guys. So he's not going to take over anything. He already has the pro guys that he trains and facilitates that for.
Yep.
So I'm actually, like going to be able to actively be a second trainer, but for an amateur standpoint. So, and which is good. Like, I feel like I'm capable of doing that. Jacob still looks over the data, the points, which that stuff is very important too, because we got to make sure we key them up for each race and make sure they're on point and that they're going to be able to perform to their peak fitness in a sense. So we can't undervalue that aspect and just think, oh, we'll push all this riding on you and all this other stuff, and not take into account for actually being prepared and fit enough to come race day on the weekend, because there's a lot of guys out there that I really feel like do way too much, and there's a lot of guys out there that do way too little. So, and there's a lot of guys out there that just don't know. And if you just don't know, just start doing something. Like, that's as simple as that. Just don't do nothing. Like, that's the worst thing you can do.
Anything's better than something or nothing.
Yeah, anything's better than nothing.
Do you think, and I kind of know the answer to this question, but do you think the days are gone where you can just ride a dirt bike and kind of do what you want and just ride during the week and show up and win on Sundays?
Yeah, I believe so. Actually, I know so. Because if that were the case, if I was that good of a dirt bike rider, I'd just show up and still be able to win, because I don't ride that much anymore. Like, I still do quite a bit of the training, but I have no illusion that, like, I think I don't want to sound cocky coming off, but I still think I could race to be able to win if that was my choice and I wanted to do it. But I'm so happy to be in the position that I am, and I'm happy with how I went out. Like, I enjoy what I'm doing now, and I have all the same benefits of being an athlete without the stress of performing. So, I train all the time. I go to the gym. I still get to ride here and there, and I don't have to do the stressful part of the riding. I'm kind of falling back in with dirt bikes, where I was, kind of falling out of love with riding and racing, and getting a little bit bitter about it, just because when it's your job and you do it all the time and you are always under that constant stress of having to perform, like, you start getting resentful with it in a sense. So, now I don't have all that stress of actually having to, perform at that high level of an aspect. And now I have stress differently, because now I got to make sure I've got 6 guys training and riding at stress levels that high. So it's actually 6 times as hard. So it's definitely a different sort of stress and different aspect for me. But yeah, I don't think you can just show up anymore and go straight to. It depends on what you're doing. Like, if you're just talking about somebody that's a good rider that's riding all the time, yeah, that's a double-edged sword. If you're sitting on the couch and you just show up to race, you're not going to win. You're not even going to be in the top 3. So
Yep.
You're probably going to get beat by 5 XC2 guys. So
How hard was it for you to walk away, and not walk away because you're still actively involved, but how hard was it for you to make that decision that, hey, this is going to be my last year, I'm going to retire after this season? What all went into that? And that's a loaded question, I know.
Yeah,
but
it's definitely a loaded question. It's been so long. Like, really, for me, it was, I don't know. I had the feeling for a couple of years that I kind of, I was losing the mindset. I feel like the mindset was being deterred away from win at all costs. Maybe not win at all costs, but it was like this really, like, do whatever it takes to get the job done. And, like, I started mitigating risks, like, during the week. I could tell, like, not caring as much if I was somebody who's faster than me, and, like, where before is like I would shit a brick if I couldn't figure out a way to become the fastest guy that day. Which at the time, like, that was very important to me. Is like, that's what gave me the confidence. Is like, if I had some guys down, I remember, like, when Ben Kelly and Josh Toth, they first started coming to my ranch in Florida, like, on the sand track, I would lap them 2 times, like, on my sand track. Then the next year, I was only able to lap them once. So I was like, what the hell? Am I getting slower? Are they getting faster? Like, they were getting faster, obviously. And then I was like, now I'm competing with these 2 guys. Like, what the hell is going on? I could just see the evolution. And 2, like, certain things just didn't hold as much value to me. and I felt like I had more to lose by actually losing than I had to gain from going out and winning. And I was right on that. Like I said, I was turning 30 years old in 20, so I was right on that cusp of like it could go either way here. I could, you know, be good for another couple of years, or I could maybe not. So, and honestly, I'm super glad with my decision of not doing it because in the last 2 years I've blown out both my knees. So I could have maybe missed both seasons at these last couple of years, but I would have rode through it for sure because I've ridden through both of my knees as is. But this definitely set me back, is what I'm getting at. Like if I were to try to come back and race now, I'd have to spend a whole year like getting knees reconstructed and something done because at this my age and the way they feel and the flex in them right now is it's no good. So um, I'm pretty sure I probably would have blown the last 2 seasons, but and
What an insane quote. I'm such a fan of sports, so to hear that, like, had more to lose by losing than you had to gain by winning. But I mean, I guess one of the things too is, like you said, you were turning 30. I think there's four or five XC1 guys right now that are over 30, and a couple that are older than you still and still racing. But things like you're one championship away from tying the all-time championship record. You took the all-time wins, but one championship away from that record too. Like, did any of that come into play or come into mind, or was it for you just focusing on you, where you were at, where your head was at, and that was the ultimate decider?
yeah, it was focusing on me, and you can chase as much as you want to chase out there. And I feel like people hang on to like to be honest with you, like I wish I could race the rest of my life. I would do it. I would love to. Like there's nothing ever that's going to replace that feeling of being able to win at the highest level of any sort of discipline in any sport. Like you're not going to find that elsewhere. And to do it at that level for so long and to accomplish more than I've was ever thought I could or was set out to do. Like my entire philosophy growing up and when I was a kid, like I knew I was going to be a professional athlete. Like I didn't know what it was going to be, but I was just a pure athlete when I was a kid. Like I was kind of one of those, I was good at all, like any sport you gave me, I was pretty good at it. And I just happened to get the best at motorcycles, and which at one time, like that didn't look like a very possibility, but I was just dead set that I'm going to be a professional athlete at something in my damn life. Like I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I just never. And then, like I said, like that was my only goal. Like as a kid, it wasn't to really to win anything until later on. It's like now you start putting those aspects on it, and you're like, what could winning do for me? And then you just all this stuff kind of stacks up, and I think now like we got guys still there, and guys that stay too long, and it's just that fulfillment thing. And it's like, what else am I going to do? Like, they enjoyed thoroughly doing what they're doing, and they don't have the same expectations on them as I had on myself that people place on them, which is maybe a little unfair for me to say to them in that aspect. But like I had some very unrealistic like expectations put on me that the situation I put myself in. So I was just tired of, maybe not tired of it. I liked winning, and I always continued to like make sure I did everything I could to win, but I just didn't want to have that constant pressure, and I was ready to move on, and I had a good opportunity to do it. And like I said, I built a business model that unknowingly and was, able to key myself up to actually start something that was sustainable rather than to, linger too long and then maybe not have the opportunity I have now.
Yeah, and that does have to be kind of a completely different, I guess, team dynamic where, like, a lot of guys are realistically showing up happy with a top 5, happy with a top 3. And with you, with the success, I'm sure anything less than a win was just a bad day. Like, nothing to take away from a second place finish, nothing to take away from a third place finish. Is that kind of how it got? And then I got to ask this, and I don't know if I should be asking it, but I'm going to ask it. Is it true that you combined your bonuses to only if you won? because that was one thing. I don't know if it's myth or legend or what, but like how guys get podium bonuses first, second, third. I always heard that yours was win or nothing.
Yeah, yeah, I can run you guys through like my I can't get into like super detail. I can tell you some stuff, but um, yeah, from 2011 I had a 1 year deal, and I think it was like 40 grand. 2011, my first year. Um, okay year. I think I got fourth in the championship. Actually, my rookie season I ended up fourth, and then the next year, 2012, um, I was going to get re-signed, and Auntie like looked at me, and like I said, it was like always me and Corey on the bubble because we had um, in 2011 it was Nate Caney, uh, or wait, was that 10? I think it was in 11. So I think 11 we had four riders. I think it was Nate Caney, me, Buttrick, and Charlie, and like they only wanted two riders on the team, and everybody kind of knew that at the time. Like they only wanted two GNCC guys, two enduro guys on the West Coast. Like KTM team, like the off-road team, was pretty relatively big at the time. So it was like we got four dudes, and they only want two. So, you know, I remember in 2012 they kept me and Corey and Charlie still. They could axe Nate. He ended up being the odd man out. But I remember Auntie sitting down, was like, "Are you the guy?" And without even knowing what he meant, I was like, "Yeah, I'm the guy." And he's like, "Are you sure you're the guy?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm the guy." I was like, "Fuck, what happens if I'm not the guy?" Like, I guess I'm going home. Like, but yeah, so um, yeah, so another 1 year deal in 2012, and I almost won the championship that year. I got beat by Wibbs in the last race, and I learned not to quit that year. So I never the last race I quit after that was in 2020. My last year racing was the only other race I ever quit after that first race in Florida. What, 10
What
seasons?
happened in that
9
first
seasons?
race?
I crashed. I hit the ground pretty hard and like minor AC separation, my shoulder
Hmm.
hurting. You know, the typical excuse like, "Oh, I crashed. I hurt my shoulder. It's swollen up," and quit racing. I could have kept riding, but I wasn't feeling it. And I learned my lesson by the end of the year because 6 days later I went and won the next race, so it wasn't hurting that bad, obviously, but hurting bad enough to quit that day. So,
And then I think that championship came down to what, 4 points?
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those things. Like, if I would have won that championship, that might have been, I wouldn't have learned anything from it. So, because I was in the exact same situation the next year. So, I probably would have let Charlie get the better of me the next year because in 2012, like, that was a real kick in the dick when I lost in the last race the way I did. Like, so I was like, I remember getting the Ironman in 2013. I was like, this is never going to happen again. Like, there's no way Charlie's beat me today. Like, there's just no freaking way. Like, I'm not losing like that 2 years in a row. So made it happen.
Yeah.
How, I don't know. But yeah, in 2013, I signed a 3 year deal, and it really screwed me. I should have never signed that 3 year deal. They got me super cheap, but I made them pay later on down the road. So, um,
So what was bad
but
about that one? Just the money and the term, signing 3 years out, not
yeah,
knowing you were about to win 4 titles in a row.
yeah, pretty much. Um, yeah, so I think in 2012 I signed for like in 2012 it was like the same amount of money as 2011, maybe 10 grand more, maybe something like that. Same bonuses. I think it was like at the time right after the recession it was like 5,000, 3,900, something like that. Maybe yeah, something below four, then like 1,500 for third. So it's like, man, I was like in 2012 I won all these, like I won six or five or six races or something like that. And I remember looking and like, because I won five or six races and got a few podiums, but I was like, you're not really making any money for second and third. Like, it really is like, it's very little. I was like, what if I take the money that I would make if I got second or if I would have got third, combine that and just say, hey, give me this amount, this money right here for winning. And I was like, if I win seven races again, that's like $40,000, $50,000 more than what I would have made for winning those five races. If I win only uh, if I win the same amount of races. And then like I signed that 3-year deal, and I had that win only bonus, which was it was like $8,000 from KTM. That's what I was getting paid to win a race, and but from the series, the contingency from that, and then some other sponsors I had, I was clearing like about 12 grand per win for 3 years. So yeah,
Plus salary.
Yeah, plus salary. But like I said, the salary wasn't great, and I was pumped at first on the salary because I think it was around 80,000 at the time. This was in 13, and it was like if you win a championship, it goes up by 10 or 15% or something like this. But what they put in the fine print is it goes up the 10 or 15% that KTM actually pays you directly, not the team sponsors in there. So this is what really screws you. It's like, what the hell does that even mean? So it's like they'll like wrap in all these gear deals. So what like KTM actually was paying me at the time was like 20 grand or some shit. So it was like I have a salary of 80 grand, but it's not the 10% of the whole salary. It's the 10% of the 20 that KTM pays. So it would go up by like a very marginal percent. I was like, this is BS. Good old times. But yeah, so I got myself roped into a 3-year deal, and as we all know, I went winning a lot. And after that, though, we renegotiated, and I signed the longer deal, and I did good. I can't complain. Obviously, everybody wishes they could have negotiated in more or something else, but I was able to make a really good living for 10 years doing something I really love to do, and able to use a lot of that money and, like I say, buy assets and things that put myself in the position to be able to do what I'm doing currently. So it's it was a nice head start in life for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially seeing you getting all fired up thinking about the good old days and this contract.
Yeah, me and Hollywood, my dad and my stepmom did a bunch of them. Actually, in my last contract, I pretty much negotiated that whole thing by myself. Even the Ranch Russell stuff, like I still, I'm pretty level-headed when it comes to all that, and too, like I'm working with good people that I trust, so I know it's not going to be anything in there that's, that I'm gonna really, obviously they threw me for a loop there back in the day on that percentage on what it was going to go up. Like I didn't read that part, but but now I make sure to iron shit out nowadays and actually know what I'm looking at.
Yeah, no, that's cool to be able to set all that up and be retired at 30.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Well, from racing, I guess. But one thing I did want to talk about is the whole National Enduro year and the National Enduro Championship. What did that mean to you, especially like given your dad's history with National Enduro? Was that a pretty cool experience for you to be able to go and win a championship of your own over there?
Yeah, it was honestly something that it just kind of happened by accident, really. It wasn't like planned to go do the whole series. So Charlie got hurt that year. In 15 or in 14, I'm sorry, when he broke his wrist in 14. And it was him. I think at the time, I can't remember if Russ was on a Husky that year or not. I think he was. I think Andrew was a defending champ from 14.
Mm-hmm.
And Russ might have been on a KTM still. I can't. Yeah, I think he was. I think it was me and Russ. But no, I went to the first round because everybody always kind of did like Sumter. It was like a little warm up race back then. And I remember telling Auntie, I was like, all right, I'll do the first 2 races, and if I win one or if I'm in the points lead, I'll do the rest of the season, because he was trying to talk me into doing them anyways. And so I got second in the first 2, and I was in the points lead, so I ended up doing the rest of the series, and
just forced into another championship.
Yeah, like it was one that I didn't really even care about really at the time, and wasn't really expecting to win. But I was just like, hey, you know what? I was like, they're going to pay me this, these same bonuses to race these things, so I might as well go double up. So,
So what was that year too? Because you were riding a 250 at the National Enduros, wasn't that the year that you were riding a 250 in XC1 at GNCCs as well?
Yeah, I think that was the second year in 16 I started. I did a little bit. I raced in 15. I only raced Unadilla when I blew my knee out. So I went to Slovakia and blew my knee out, and I came back and I raced my sprint bike or my national enduro bike at that GNCC. That was at Unadilla. That was the only time I raced up until that point. Besides my very first XC1 race was the only time I rode a 250F. And then the following year they came out with a new bike, a whole new frame and new motor, and I really love the factory edition. So I got the factory edition. Yeah, I was racing the factory edition. That's right. That's what it was. I was racing the factory edition at the National Enduros when I won. And so at the end of that year, we because that was a 16 and a half is what it was. Or
Yeah.
it wasn't it was the factory edition. So going into the next year, we were all going to get the updated frame, the new motor, and all that. I remember they got me. So I had that 250, and that's when the 250 and the 350 started sharing the same frame. I remember they got me that 350 motor. My mechanic Tanner at the time. We were getting ready to go to a sprint enduro. This was like Thursday. We're going to leave Friday morning to go to sprint enduro. This was Thursday. We get this motor shipped to us. He puts it in my bike. I go do 2 laps on it. I tell him that I come back in. I tell him to take it out, put the 250 back in. I'm gonna race that because I hate it. I was like, the new motor. I was like, this is too much power. And literally, he took him like an hour and a half to do a first motor swap. Took the engine out, put the 350 in. Literally rode it 10 minutes. Took the 350 out, put the 250 back in. Like 3 hours worth of work to do like 5 minutes worth of riding. So he was such a good sport because like I wouldn't do shit like that all the time, but I was like, dude, this, it's going to take me longer to learn how to ride this bike than it is going to take you to swap this motor back over. I was like, I need that $8,000 this weekend. Let's go win. I was like, I'm not going to ride this 350. So, yeah, no, I got some good stories, like stupid stuff like that. But yeah, so the next year too, going into next year, I still didn't really gel with that 350 motor. It was way too much. So I was like, screw it, I'll just ride this 250F. I was like, the bike's so good, it handles so crazy, like I love this thing. So I just started racing that, and I think I raced the first 3 races on it. And yeah, I did fine on it. It wasn't. I don't think I ever lost because I won Florida on it, and then I think I won the first 3 on that 250F. So then I was on the 350 after, and I never went back because I quit racing national enduros, and then I started racing the 350 and the sprints as well. So I was like, there was such a drastic change that year from the 250 to 350. I just could not ride both the bikes. So I was like, I gotta pick which one's going to be better for me at this point and just stick with it. Yeah. It's crazy what technology does, like how much it can evolve and like make something feel that much different. Like in the time span of, like I said, I was bouncing back and forth for a whole year, like from 250 to 350. Then as soon as that new 350 motor came out, that was like, it's like 8 horsepower more. It felt like, but it felt like the old 450, and I hated the old 450. I could not ride it. Just too much like rotating mass, too much inertia. Could never get it to slow down. And it just like, it reminded me of that so bad.
A 150 is all you need to win a race.
Yeah. I still don't know how that worked.
Well, so that was one of those things that like, it was still in the early stages of social media and the internet that we know now, but that like took everything by storm. So you went on a 350, you went on a 250, and then all of a sudden we're racing a 150, and almost won. I think it was Powerline, or wasn't it when Strang got by you right at the end, and then went back to Ironman and won Ironman on the 150. What was that like?
Yeah, that was cool. That was man, that's yeah. Yeah, it was super super rad. I wish I could go back to those days and like just, I don't even know what the hell I was thinking, to be honest with you. I just probably too cocky. And I just had it going on then, man. Like I just had all the confidence. Like I had that swagger. Like guys were guys were for sure like they just give it to me because they knew I was going to get them no matter what. Like I was probably a little bit of a bully. I think to be like some point and it's I really think like to be really good at the top level of a dirt bike rider, like you got to have a level head on your shoulders and be able to act appropriately, but you got to have like a lot of prick in you. Like there's got to be some prick in there somewhere. And like I just had just enough back then to where it was like I could make things like that happen and like pull wins out that was seemingly impossible at the time, like just by pure maybe intimidation and that factor is like just making people cave. So um, yeah, I don't know. I really I think now like I rode a 125 the other day or not the other day, but last month when I was in California, I was like I don't know. I was like I don't know. I was like I don't even want to ride this bike. I was like these other bikes are so much easier to ride nowadays. Like I don't, yeah. But it was super cool. That bike was absolutely insane. I remember when I first got it and I was practicing. I was like, this thing just next level, like compared to what I had previously ridden as a 125. But obviously that was a 150. But it had like a bored out carb, like full factory motor. Um, just shit you couldn't buy that was in that motor, and it ran really good. And yeah,
So did you guys
it
give it
really
away?
wasn't.
Did
Yeah,
you guys
no,
give it
so I
away
did it
with the
all.
built motor? Or did you put a stock motor back in it?
No, they gave it away as is. The only thing that came off with it was that the silencer at the time. Uh, Donnie from FMF, he was they had that prototype at the time. The new two-stroke silencers. They look like four-stroke silencers. That
Mm-hmm.
was right when that first came out, and they had two of them. So I actually kept the spare one, like the backup silencer that we have, but they needed that one back. They didn't want that getting out yet, so that was literally the only thing we took off. But they're all worried about that on the motor at first because they're like they didn't know who was going to get it, what they're going to do, and all this and that. And the people that ended up winning the bike haven't ridden it yet. Like it's still muddy. The way it left Ironman. The kid had never raced before. What is his name? So the kid had never raced before, and he won the bike in my raffle that I did for Rory. And his dad never let him ride that bike. He went and bought his own bike. Like they got into racing. Um, he's been. I'm not sure if he's still currently racing, but that kind of you know gave him some showed him the way to into racing in GNCC. So
That's awesome.
that was pretty cool. Yeah, now that I remember, yeah, almost 9 years ago now. So
Now he owns a little piece of GNCC history. Do you think that's got to be for sure the last two
I
stroke
wish,
to ever win an overall, right?
yeah, yeah, it was.
Well,
That
I'm
for sure
saying, like,
was.
even going forward, you see anybody else just coming out on a two stroke and letting it swing?
Um, Never say never. I think there's a few races you could probably do it, like to put the right guy on it. But you're not going to get the right. Maybe Toth. He's got that gas. Maybe come out and maybe like a snowshoe or something. But I really don't see like he's not going to be racing all the time, so he's not going to be in that realm of being able to actually be capable of winning, especially on a two stroke. Like it's a lot harder, like I said, to just come in like not doing it all the time and racing against these guys and you think. But snowshoe is one of the odd ones. Like if it was like super crazy muddy at a race,
Yeah.
maybe there's a chance. Like there's definitely going to be a little bit of asterisk beside the next one. I don't feel like you're just going to get somebody to show up on a 150 with pristine conditions at Ironman. They're just going to beat the hell out of everybody. So
Especially
like
at Ironman.
I didn't just like win that race. I like dominated that race. So I was like, I'm pretty sure that day I could have done it on a 105. Like I was
Was that Caleb on a super mini?
like, yeah.
Um, man, that's got to be a fun one to look back on, especially like after the way that the second to last race ended and then coming back and winning the way that you did at Ironman. But when you look back on the career, you think about a moment like that. But what are the other moments that stick out to you? Like, are there any like big moments that you remember, whether it's just like the day or an awesome performance, or I mean, when someone asks about your career, what's the first memory that you think of?
Um, Shoot. Yeah, probably. Just all I did a lot of winning. Um, I think for me at this point, like what I really am, you know, I don't know how to explain it, but obviously I won a whole lot of races, so it's like they all blend together. The only one that really sticks out that we just got done talking about is like that was the most excited I ever was to win a race. Like I've never even celebrated that hard going across the finish line for a championship. Like I had both hands up, like literally screaming. Like I was so stoked, and like that was by far the most uh, excited I've been to win a race. But honestly, like I think what's crazy is to me is like how many, I raced 130 races. If you say 10 years and raced every race, which I didn't race every race, there's somewhere I was out and I didn't hurt. So I don't know. It was probably in the neighborhood of like 115 or something. But so I won more than half the races I ever showed up to race. And then on top of that, it's like I was on the podium. I had 99 total podiums, like wins and seconds and thirds. Like, so I had less than, 15 races where that I finished off the podium. So that's what's like like I look back and I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like I didn't realize it. It took me like as you're doing it, like you don't think of it in that aspect, but now that I look back and I was like how many races did I actually race? I was like, oh wow, now I got 67 wins. So I go back and like how many seconds and thirds do I have? And I was like, holy shit. I was like I only finished outside the top five like 6 times ever.
Oh my
So
goodness. That's after
I mean who's yeah, it's like
yeah, I remember after your last race, the show that I did that weekend, I added all that up. I went back through all the results, and I wish I would have brought that up or knew where it was. But, yeah, just the percentage of on the podium for every race that you race and then the percentage of wins. I mean, those are numbers that do you even think it's possible to see those type of numbers again with as tight as the competition has gotten?
they better start whoever it's going to be. That's all I got to say. Like everybody that's out there, there's nobody new coming to XC. Zacho better start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
No,
Ben last year came down. He tied the most consecutive wins, and then unfortunately didn't get a chance to go back out to break the record. So if he comes out and races Big Buck and wins, is that count, or is there an asterisk next to that one?
as
Because it's
in,
still
what
his
is,
consecutive races.
yeah, yeah, no, I would count mine. Like I didn't count the races. Like I said, I'd have to go back and look and see how many races I actually didn't like sign up for, like make a lap or whatever for
Yeah.
DNF. But yeah, you can't count the ones that you're not even there for.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. Like he's won 6 in a row. I never won 6 in a row. I would always get to five, and then it was like, yeah, I was superstitious. That was the only thing that I was ever superstitious about. I was like, I get to 5 wins, and that's why I was so scared. I remember getting to 5 championships. I was like, because it
Oh
happened like
no.
regularly and repetitively for like 4 or 5 years. Like I get to 5 wins, and I would like DNF or crash out, or my bike would blow up or something stupid. Like I was like, I can't get past 5 wins.
Dang.
Like I won 5 in a row, then Chris Bach beat me one year. It's like like Chris Bach,
Chris
like just
Bach's
comes
only
out of
win.
nowhere. Yeah, just absolutely murdered me that day. I was like, so, or like I got the 5 wins, and then me and Josh Strain get together, and I hit a tree, and my fuel pump breaks, and I DNF. I was like, there's so many times where it was like 5 wins, and I just shit the bed. So,
Dang.
but it's.
Well, you mentioned a second ago you're at 99 podiums. Is there any part of you? And first, I do want to say that Mid-East race, I think it would be cool to hear about that. A month and a half ago, one of the first things I said to you up on the podium was, did that get the juices flowing, make you want to come back? And you just looked at me and said, I think I accomplished enough. And as soon as you said that, I was like, shit. Like talking to the best ever, and then just get that answer. I was like, oh, that was such a horrible question. But you're at 99 podiums. There's got to be part of you that just wants to make it an even 100.
Yeah, I've got a quarrel with Ben. If he listens to this, he'll know what I'm talking about. That's my last race ever. He stole it away from me.
Oh no.
We have an insight, a good running inside joke. Um, you know those black and orange placards out there, out there in the woods. Yeah, he kind of missed a couple of those and got around me. We had, I was sure to let him know after the race. So,
Oh man.
but he stole it away. It's still the joke. It's like he stole my 100th podium away, man.
Dang.
But
He's
no,
got
it's
he's
it's
got to live with that now.
yeah. I was like, it's all because of you. It's all because of you. I,
So so like there
you're
was
the reason
rumors
I'm gonna
at,
come
at
back.
Snowshoe that it might happen. Is that something that you have thought about, or are you just completely all right? I'm good.
Yeah, no, I was probably rumors that I was. So it's crazy, like the rumors that start. I don't know where they come from, who starts them, how they get going, but I always said, yeah, I'd like to race the morning race at Snowshoe. I think it'd be fun. Um, like Camp Coker or whatever. Like there's some races I'd get dressed up like, oh, you're gonna go win today, Caleb. Like there's so many people that still think I'm out there. Like that, like when I tell them I'm not riding that day, like they ask me if I'm gonna win. I'm like, I'm not. It's like it's kind of hard not to, or it's kind of hard to win when you're sitting over here. Like, what do you mean you're not racing? It's like, no. I was like, where you been? I haven't raced the last 2 years. So no, I'm not. There's no danger of me coming back. I'm perfectly fine. I'm happy. I might come back and race 30 plus. Like I said, I got to give it to those old guys. Start getting into them a little bit now. But no, I don't think I'd come back to ride the 3 hour race. It's too
Not
much.
even an XC3 run or nothing.
No, no. Like well, no, I'm not riding nothing below 350 ever again. So racing.
Oh, so the Mid East race, and like I know like you and Zacho raced Camp Coker, you raced the morning race at Snowshoe, you raced the industry class at Ironman and stuff a couple times, and obviously go over to the ISDE, which is a whole nother battle in itself. But the Mid East race, I mean, that's got to be kind of cool to go out there and be racing for something. And granted, it's not a championship or anything like that, but that was a good bit of money for a local race, and it was
Hell
$3,000
yeah,
to
that's
win
why.
and 1,500 for second. So it's a big swing between first and second. I mean, how did that feel? I'm sure you had to have gotten competitive and kind of turned it on during that race.
Oh yeah, I was trying. I was trying for sure. But I was still. I had just gotten back from 6 days, so I was
Yeah.
like had some riding underneath me, and then I just did Ironman the weekend before. So like I had been on the bike religiously there for the last 2.5 months, 3 months, or whatever. So I felt pretty good about it, about going and racing and being able to be competitive. The only downfall is like I literally borrowed that bike and rode it like the day before and put my bars on it. So like it wasn't my bike.
Yeah.
It was Scott Harwell's 350, and yeah, literally the only thing I did was change the bars. So it took me like a lap or two to kind of like get acquainted with the suspension, and I didn't set the sag or anything. I just hopped on it and took off. But no, I really enjoyed it. The track was fun. Like I said, Rui was riding really good, and then Stu kind of came on there at the end, and I knew at the end like all I had to do was not make a mistake, and I caught a lapper in a kind of a wrong spot, and uh, the racecraft is kind of like not as on point as it once was. So instead of being like nice and calm and understanding this, reading the situation a little bit better, I kind of shit the bed and rushed it and fell down, and he got around me, and then that was all it was. Like all I could do was ride behind him and hopefully he fell down or something, because even the GNCCs are kind of getting like that though. Here it's like the guys are. I don't want to say they're going faster, but there's more people going faster. So
Hmm.
in return, it's harder unless somebody makes a mistake, it's harder to just straight up pass somebody nowadays, unless they make a bobble or a mistake or get held up by a lapper or something. Like I feel like it's definitely harder to straight up pass somebody in the woods, because you get out there and you see like there's all these lines, but there's really only one fast way around the track. So Once you have those lines dialed in, like you don't just blow by anybody anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, just the whole level I think has just been elevated. Everyone's just so close now, and especially like
Yeah.
you go out to a practice track and anybody can have the fastest time. You get out to race day and everyone's just so competitive and so tight right there. And man, I know it's been an hour and a half already, but appreciate you taking the time out. I don't want to take a whole bunch more of your time, but one of the things I did want to hit on, and one of the things that has kind of been a big part of your career, is representing the USA with ISDE and going over there so many times and being a part of the two winning teams and even going this past season. So just want to get your thoughts like on ISDE as a whole, and is that still something that you're working towards? I know that the ISD overall is a big goal for everybody, but I know that was a big goal for you. So is that something that like, are you definitely your name's in the hat for ISD every year going forward until you don't feel like it, or was last year just kind of we need somebody, hey, I'll go? Like, where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I wish I could knowingly say like or feel comfortable about saying like, yeah, sign me up and I can go do good. But I really put in perspective like um for myself like how much effort like I used to put into riding and racing and the level that I was able to take myself to, and then the level I was able to ride at when I didn't have such a good day um, was just substantially better than it is now. So I can't be when I'm not on now. Like when I was on this year at 6 days, like I was barely competitive. You know, I was still competitive when I was off in years past. So like I went in 2019 and I didn't feel like I had that great of a year. I blew it on the first 2 days, but I still got fourth overall and I still won some tests and I was a top three guy. Like I couldn't even get in the
Yeah.
top five. You know, 3 years later. So. Yeah, my ambition for it is definitely different. The whole outlook. Like I said, I'd love to be able to do it, but um, I'm not the best guy for the job anymore, and I don't think we sent a very strong team. It didn't turn out to be. So that's it's a bummer. I'm disappointed. I thought I was going to be a more competitive. I thought we were all going to be more competitive than we were. I'm not sure what went wrong to be honest with you, but I know I went in a little bit injured, but I wasn't like using that as a crutch or as an excuse. I was there to deal with it and do the best I could, and I felt like I prepared a little bit better, but I felt like I could have been a little bit better prepared. Um, but I was relatively, I was super fit at the time. I was in a pretty happy spot as far as fitness, and yeah, just it didn't work out. Those guys over there, Josep and Verona, man, they're absolutely freaking next level. Like that's some of the craziest stuff I've seen them do on a motorcycle is ride some of those flat turns and some of those dry days. The guys are ain't no American going to be winning 6 days anytime soon with those two guys. I can tell you that. It's not the way they're riding. Like we don't ride that kind of terrain enough. I feel like we got some guys that are capable of being competitive, but I don't think at that level unless they went over and started racing world enduros right now. So
Dang.
um,
So the gap
they,
is that big right now.
yeah, for those two guys, I think as far as the teams, like if you put the right team together and solid group of guys and the right conditions, I think obviously the team still has a really good chance to be competitive and be in the hunt for wins. But yeah, as far as like competing for the overall win is, it's like we went back in time again to when U-Haul and Snyder were riding, like they're riding at levels like at that what those guys were, 04 to 07. So
Yeah, it was cool to get a little taste of Josep over here putting his hat in the GNCC mix last year too.
yeah, it was really fun working with him. He's crazy cat, man. I really like the guy. He's a funny guy, very appreciative, and works hard. Um, yeah, but he just grinds away, and he loves to ride his motorcycle and loves what he's doing, and yeah, like all of us do. But it's cool to get to work with somebody that has that different culture and from a different era and or in time and what he does, and he's really good. He's probably I feel like he's probably the one of the best overall dirt bike riders in the world, if at the moment, you know. Um, I think Billy Bolt is right up there too,
Yeah.
as far as like technicality wise. But I think Joseph is overall like fastest. Um, yeah, he's crazy what he's capable of right now.
Hard to argue that after seeing how this year went for him. But then a couple questions, man, and then I'll let you out of here. Once again, I can't thank you enough for your time. This has been absolutely awesome. I always said that when I started this podcast like 5.5 years ago, I was like, I'll know I made it when we get Kailub on the show, and I still haven't made it, but we got you on the show, and so I'm super appreciative of it. But uh, one of the things I had on here was the KR edition bike. And you mentioned you riding the factory edition 250 back in the day when they did that with Mooskin, and then they did the Dungy for the 450. But how cool was that, and how did that come about to have the KR edition bike? Like that had to have been such an accomplishment, or like a proud moment in your career, I would have to imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. That was insane, really. I don't know how to put it into. It was a little bit of a like stunned. For some, my buddy Sam Chalk like mentioned it one day. He's like, I've heard something about maybe a KR edition bike coming out. I was like, oh, they're probably just gonna make a factory edition off road bike or whatever. And then COVID happened and all that, and I heard that none of it was even gonna happen. Like the new factory edition bike come out, and then they kind of this. I remember everybody came to Ironman. They said they had something special. I had no idea. Like I really didn't know until like a couple hours like before that, like what they were doing because they did like little rehearsal. And I was like, no shit. I was
Oh
like,
wow!
holy cow! Like wow, like that's pretty wild. Like yeah. So they gave me one, um, and then they gave me the first box that got shipped over. They cut out the a piece of the paperwork that was on the first box that got shipped over, so it was super cool. It was pretty rad. And then now to you know to see what it goes into like the manufacturing process and getting something like that done. It's super like it's a crazy honor. You know, it's wild too. I'll like go on to like order parts for like cruise bike on Rocky Mountain or something. I'll go to type like KTM whatever, and then like you'll start typing KTM, and then you'll see like all the list of KTM like Kailub Russell factory edition. So that's pretty neat.
That's awesome. So is that bike on the display with the 8 championship bikes?
Yeah, it's kind of a wreck right now. I've got my whole basement torn apart because we're moving a bunch of old furniture from down there, like over to the new building, new facility, and so yeah. So this spring when we get back, I need to pull all that stuff out and clean it. Maybe get one of them running again. Be cool to see a couple of them. There's a couple of them that I'd like to spend some laps on just to see what they feel like. See if I remember how good I thought they were compared to how good they actually are. So
That'll be sick with all the technology changes.
yeah.
But last thing, man, your last post of your last championship at GNCC, you actually wrapped it up. I think the week or 2 weeks before you wrapped up the full gas, the final real full gas championship or original full gas, I should say. But the caption was, "Perfection is not obtainable, but if you chase perfection, you can achieve excellence." And I thought that was fitting, and it's a crazy way to recap such a career with such accomplishments. But kind of just if you could recap your career, what would you say? And then if you could take anything you learned from that and offer some advice to someone up and coming that is maybe on a 50 right now that's hoping to become the next Kailub Russell, what's the best advice you could offer?
I mean, there's plenty. I've already said so much tonight about it. It's like just start somewhere. Just start. Don't do nothing. Um, you can always do something. Nothing's unacceptable. And definitely for like the 50 riders, just like what like I never started out like oh I've got to race dirt bikes. I just like I'm gonna be a professional athlete. Like that was my goal. It's like let's be a professional athlete. It's like back then, I really liked rollerblading. I want to be a professional rollerblader. Like in the X Games, that was in X Games back then.
Like on
It's cool
Brink.
shit. Like street luge and all that stuff. Like I was so into it. Like I just want to do something like it. I was gonna be. Maybe I should say I was gonna be somewhat involved in like action sports some way or another. But no, it's yeah, life's definitely short, so make the most of it and look forward. Just do something. Don't do nothing, and yeah, have a good time. Because if you don't enjoy it, then it's really, you're not going to get anything out of it. So make sure if something makes you happy and you have passion for it, don't just do it because it's what you're told to do. And yeah, enjoy the process. Don't get too ahead of yourself.
Well, sweet. All that worked out for you, and it's cool to kind of wrap it up in kind of the way that we started. But, man, I'm glad this finally happened. Stoked to be able to talk to you. Yeah, thanks again for your time, and look forward to seeing you out in the woods at some races and see crew out there riding as well. And, yeah, we'll see you around.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me, man.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Later, guys.
All right. Wait, hold on. Where am I at over here? So that's going to wrap this one up. That was a show, and like I mentioned, I was being completely candid. When Devin Byram and I first started this show, it was one of those things like, man, like if we can get Kailub Russell on, and kind of talked to him about it a few times in the past, and probably could have got him on sooner, to be honest with you, just chatting with him and stuff, and really getting to know him a little bit better at the full gases is really where I got to talk to him more. But as much as I want to say we weren't ready at the time, I don't know if I'm any more ready now. But it's cool to be able to talk to him nonetheless. I mean, to have the mentality to become the best at anything, obviously has to be a special breed of person. So it's cool to hear a little bit more of his mindset. It was kind of a surreal one. So thank you all that have always supported OTP. Thank you all that have watched this and listened to it. And yeah, I think that was a really cool episode. And I'm glad we were able to make it happen. And I'm glad that you all were here to listen to it as well. Put in the wrong part of that. But yeah, so this was streamed live on Twitch. We try to do all of these live on Twitch as far as video is concerned. Hopefully next year we'll be moving to live on Twitch all the time. Let's see if I can turn this down. So yeah, next year we'll the goal is to have all of our interviews live on FaceTime or live on this. You know what I mean. You can see it instead of just hear it. So we're live on Twitch. Follow us there. Push this straight over to YouTube and then anywhere you can find podcasts. But as always, thank you for listening to OTP. We'll see you next time.